Is there a difference in speed, picture quality, or anything else between the Apple TV 4K 2017 and the 2021? And if so, is it worth the upgrade? We'll find out. Let's get nerdy. Up first is the speed test. I opened up a bunch of apps on both and timed the results. To remove user error, I went frame by frame to right when the app opened to right when it closed. The results surprised me as other reviews said there was little difference between the A12 chip and the A10X. However, I found a noticeable difference not only objectively but also subjectively when navigating apps, starting streams, fast forwarding, and rewinding. Part of this speed could be from it supporting Wi-Fi 6, which we'll discuss a bit more in a bit, but in my opinion, increased time means me wasting less time. Time is a valuable resource. Over the years of me using this device, I will save tremendous time, which makes the upgrade worth it to me in itself. However, that comes down to personal preference. Next, you and I will be looking at different freeze frames in 4K HDR. I used the same HDMI cable with the same TV settings. I even switched them out to make sure there wasn't any difference. Unfortunately, my camera and my skills with said camera suck. Seriously, they're bad. So what I'm saying is what I'm seeing may be different from what you're seeing, and you'll just have to take my word on it, which is daunting. I know, but you can trust me. I'm a YouTuber, and this is totally a paid and unbiased review. This house, this TV, my dog, and my firstborn child, my soul, your soul, all bought by them. But seriously, that was sarcasm if you didn't pick up on it. Okay, so here we are. Batman Begins, specific scene. This particular one, just looking through it really quick. If I am over on the new version, if I'm looking, it's one of those, these highlights, once again, are a little bit more bright. The darks are going to be a little bit more dark through all of this. Back here, I can see a little bit more detail with just where the light is coming down instead of it all kind of blending together. And then on this building back here, I can see a little bit more as well with it, once again, just being a little bit better in the sense of overall blackness and darkness. On this one, it's one of those that this detail's a little bit lost over here. I can't see as much in here. These aren't as bright as the cape, and then I can't see as much detail. Like the blacks are still pretty black, but they're a little bit gray. So that's for that particular example. Moving back on over to the next one really quick. All right, so for this particular scene, same thing, same theme. This isn't quite as bright, that isn't quite as bright. The highlights on this guy aren't as focalized or quite as bright. Same thing with his chest right here, not as bright. And overall image quality is not quite as crisp or sharp. If I go back to the new one, it's one of those, these little circles definitely are popping out a bit more. Same with the light here. You can really tell that that's a reflection. This light is more focalized right here with that being really bright and this being a little bit darker. Same with this thing. And then just the overall picture quality is slightly more crisp. All right, so here we are on the last example that I'm going to be showing for this video, and I think this one actually probably has the best example. So if we go over onto the old Apple 4K TV, if I'm looking at this wood, and then this beam of wood, this beam right here is kind of grayish. It's not fully black. If I'm looking at Batman's suit in this area right here, it's pretty black, but it's not fully black. His overall suit also is a little more grayish black than full black. If I'm looking back here, I see this light and then that kind of spills out on over to all of this. And then the reflection quality right here isn't as bright. And then this big window right here is one of those that all of this kind of blends into this. So you're not getting a really sharp contrast between this kind of darker window and this really bright window with a focal outline there. Where when I switch over to the new Apple 4K TV. I see a lot more detail kind of in the wood grain here in the sense of contrast. This beam is almost completely black where it actually blends in completely with that. And you, like, his hand gets cut off, which is kind of interesting. Once again, that's a little brighter. This outline right here of where the light's hitting that is a lot brighter. This is super bright right here, and then I can actually see it kind of spilling into here with dark detail down here. And then this light right here isn't really even bright at all for this window. And then this is just super bright. And then the origination of like right here is really bright, and it's all really, really crisp in general. Also, Batman's suit is a little bit darker. This is black, that's all black right there. Where if I go back over once again to the old one, highlight even on this guy isn't as strong. This one's a little bit more washed out. It's just not, you just don't see as good of, the brights are not as bright, the contrast isn't as good, and the darks aren't as dark, which is the same thing that we've seen on all of the freeze frames. It's mild, but certain pictures it shows it better than other ones. This is definitely one of them that I can see a pretty big difference when I'm just looking at it. Once again, if you're looking at this, it's kind of grayish all through there, and then right here you just don't see as good of detail. Obviously my camera isn't a super nice camera, so you're gonna just have to trust what I'm telling you. But right here, I mean, it's just black into black, and it's just, yeah, just the highlights. You can really tell where light is hitting and reflecting, where on the old Apple TV 4K, yes, you can, but it's just a little bit duller in general, and just the crispness of the entire picture. This one looks slightly out of focus, where when I go to the new one, it just looks like it's a little bit more in focus. So is there a difference between the old 4K TV and the new one? Yes, it's mild, but it is apparent. Okay, so if I'm looking incredibly critically at this, and even then it is still super hard. It's one of those that if I'm looking at this highlight right here, this and this is a bit more bright, and when I'm looking at the reflection highlights of said light on all these little tiny fishes, it's one of those that this is ever so slightly a little bit brighter than on the old Apple TV. And by, I mean like very small margin. I can see that's just not quite as bright, and the reflection handling here is not quite as bright either. I pretty much have it on the same exact freeze frame, but a little bit of variability there could be the reason or the thing that I'm seeing. Also, just in general, the overall sharpness is a little less sharp on this one when I'm taking in everything compared to the new Apple TV. It just, the whole picture is just a little bit more crisp. But it's, I mean, so kind of what I'm seeing is there's a little more darker darks on here, a little bit brighter highlights, and it's a little bit sharper. And by a little bit, I really do mean like a very, very small margin of difference between the two. And I really had to sit here and do an A/B comparison. So it's hard to see. It's hard to see, but it is noticeable. The settings, I do have exactly the same settings: calibrated dark, 75, 50, 50, 50, 20, normal, warm, exactly, black detail, blah, 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 all the same. So that's on the new one. Going over to the old Apple TV, I've got the same exact settings of 75, 50, 50, 20, warm, off, low, everything's the same. So we're going to move on over to another difference where I think I see it a little bit more, because I think the kind of bright highlights on the old one, according to some of the other reviews that I saw, was pretty much showing that there's not a whole lot of difference between kind of brighter scenes, and I would qualify this as more of a brighter scene. All right, so here we are on a really bright scene, because I wanted to see if I could notice any differences here with this particular one. So the first place that I'm going to look is down in this whole area right here is what I'm going to look at. And so I'm sitting here looking, and this is the difference that I see over here. So this is the new Apple 4K TV, and over here I see a really bright thing. Brightness here, bright, 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 but I can still read this out really quick on the rope right here. There's a lot of sun, If I'm looking at this little dot thing, it's clear. Same with the no smoking. This danger is a little bit more clear too. These seats are a little more black, and more importantly, kind of the edges of all of this painted work, I see a little more grunge on it, where when I go over to the old Apple TV 4K, it's one of those that these highlights right here aren't as crisp and separated. So with the old one, I really saw really tight, bright areas, and then into a dark area, there's a little bit more bleed on all of the bright areas, and they don't get quite as bright, especially like this rope doesn't get quite as bright. When I'm looking at the overall paint job over here, it's more of a like solid color instead of seeing more of kind of contrast and a little bit darker grunge. And then in general, this light is a little more fuzzy. Same with the danger, same with the no smoking. So the entire picture isn't quite as crisp as the old one. So once again, pretty much all of that summed up is saying that the new Apple TV is slightly more crisp overall. The entire picture quality is a little more in focus. The highlights are a little bit brighter, and there's a little more contrast between the bright and the dark spots on the entire thing. And then I notice a little bit more detail. So put that even more simply, the highlights the brights are brighter, the darks are a little bit darker, and it's a little more well organized. I don't know. I guess I went straight into how long I was looking at that image to get all those, is it actually went into a screensaver. But I wasn't expecting a difference here, and at first I chalked it up to buyer's bias, but continued to find the same results over and over again, and that, my friend, is what we call a pattern. And I can't ignore patterns. Brights are brighter and don't bleed as much into the rest of the picture, providing better contrast. Darks are darker with more detail. Overall picture quality is slightly sharper, coming across as being more in focus. Colors are more accurate and popped more. All these improvements are mild but add up to make a noticeable difference, especially during A/B testing, allowing me to enjoy HDR content more. When it comes to SDR content, I didn't notice any difference at all. Additionally, the raised blacks on the 2017 version are now resolved on the 2021 model. Would I buy this for that feature alone? Absolutely not. But when combined with others, makes it more compelling of a purchase. As for the remote, night and day difference. A previous remote is made of glass with a touchpad that likes to test your patience. It's thin and lightweight and attractive, but the mediocre touchpad makes you overshoot or undershoot your desired app. If you want to fast forward or rewind, good luck making that work, especially with any type of precision, as often it won't even register. With it being so small and black, it's also like the Dark Knight and will seemingly disappear when watching movies in the dark. The new remote is like Superman. It's made from silver aluminum, making it stand out in a dark room. It's thicker and larger, making it more comfortable in the hand when being held. Can we get a "that's what she said" in the comments, please? It has a dedicated on-off button. The Siri button has been placed on the right side of the remote. The menu button is now a back arrow. So menu button, back arrow. Siri used to be right here. Now it's right here. This didn't have an on-off. This does have an on-off. And last, there is a combo touch/arrow pad, which I really like compared to the crappy touch screen. So you can still do your swiping motions if you so want, and you can also actually click it itself. All buttons feel fantastic tactically with mild pre/post travel with strong spring back force. It's premium all around. Navigation is dramatically improved and way easier, making the device seem even faster. And this is all coming from someone who didn't really mind that old remote. If you don't upgrade to the new 2021 model, you should still buy this separately, even though it's $60, which is brutal, as Apple and their greed always goes hand in hand. Other minor differences: the light on the device itself is about 4 times less bright, meaning it doesn't shine like a beacon when watching a movie. Small, but critical. I also found it connecting to my phone, tablet, or headphone a lot easier, but the fun doesn't stop here. I'm a nerdy dude and love my specs, so diving into the features that are a little bit less obvious. As mentioned, the 2017 model has an A10X and the 2021 has an A12. The new chip shows a noticeable difference when opening/closing apps, buffering videos, and finite control, such as going frame by frame. There will be a minor improvement of overall picture quality. Last, if you game on this, you'll notice an improvement. The next one is huge. It comes with 4 gigabytes compared to 3 gigabytes of RAM. I know, earth-shattering. Now, you don't have to wait for your apps to reload as often, except I don't think I ever noticed that with my old one. awkward. It comes with HDMI 2.1 over 2.0A, meaning it's capable of 4K at 120 frames per second and 4.4.4 chroma. Unfortunately, this is currently capped to 4K 60 4.4.4. The old version was capable of 4K 30 at 4.4.4. Does any of this matter? Arguably, I think this is one reason why HDR is improved. You'll also be able to consume 4K 60 content, but that content is extremely limited currently, exclusive to YouTube if the creator wishes, certain sports apps such as Red Bull, or home videos recorded on your iPhone, if applicable, as that does require a specific iPhone model. Unfortunately, I don't see this becoming mainstream as people are obsessed, and I seriously mean obsessed, with 24 frames per second. The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug came out at 48 frames per second, and people lost their freaking minds. A lot of people also didn't like Gemini Man, who was shot in 120 frames per second and released at 60 frames per second for home theater. Personally, I like increased frame rates as I enjoy the added clarity as it is more realistic. As, guess what? When I'm moving my hand like this, I don't see a whole lot of blur in real life. I don't know. Crazy talk, I know. But the old geezers and their 24 frame per second zealotry are ruining it for me. You can't see it, but I'm giving you all the finger. Seriously, this one is giving you the finger. Now, that one's giving you the finger. Am I actually giving you the finger? You'll never know. Both remotes still have IR, but the new version has Bluetooth 5.0 over 4.0, which adds a minor improvement of being slightly faster. But I doubt that you'll actually notice. Has a better connection. Again, this is probably not noticeable, and uses less energy, so you shouldn't have to charge it as often. You'll probably maybe notice that, but I think I charged this guy like once every I think I charged it twice, and I own the Apple 4K TV 2017, probably from 2017 until like practically now. I've never charged this one yet, so I don't know if you'll actually notice that either. With the bigger chassis, you may have a bigger battery as well. I'm not in the tearing down business, so I don't know that for sure. Unfortunately, they got rid of the accelerometer and gyroscope, making it lame for gaming. The old remote also has 2 microphones where the new one has 1. Last, you still charge both with Lightning because Apple hates us and loves that ugly stepchild of a cord. The Wi-Fi has been upgraded from Wi-Fi 5 to Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax, giving you a boost in speeds and stability, especially when paired with a Wi-Fi 6 router. Something that's not a big deal now, but is becoming one as time goes on, it comes with something called Thread, which is a low-power mesh network protocol to help connect all the devices in your home, even if they come from different manufacturers. This allows other smart devices from different manufacturers to talk to each other, boost their signal, and improve battery life. Think of it like a web where if one device fails, you can easily go to the next spot to get back online, boost a signal, or go around it, all with AES encryption, which is all good things. If you have a lot of Apple devices, you can still use this as a home base. You can still connect Xbox and PlayStation controllers to it. It still doesn't come with an HDMI cable, despite being dramatically more expensive than all of the competition by probably at least 3 times, which is just Apple. It's just because it's Apple, and they know they can get away with it. You'll need to make sure to buy an HDMI 2.1 cable if you plan to push this guy to the max and have a TV that also supports it. To everyone's disappointment, it doesn't come with a U1 chip, an accelerometer, or gyroscope, which would have elevated the overall audio dramatically and allowed you to automatically connect your AirPod Pros and AirPod Maxes with head tracking and spatial audio. They did come out with an update allowing you to listen to spatial audio on either one. I didn't notice a difference between them. In general, I don't think it's a good implementation as it makes a lot of things very quiet, so I usually leave it off. Moving on to the conclusion. For me, there are a lot of little incremental upgrades that justify the upgrade for myself. Those minor upgrades include the device being faster in everything, providing slightly better picture quality, getting a new remote, having increased RAM, having HDMI 2.1, upgraded wireless, and Thread. I can also sell my old box for a good chunk of change, making the upgrade fee about the same as me buying a new remote. At that point, I figured, why not? I also wouldn't mind keeping my 2017 unit to be used on another TV in my home. If you got an older model that isn't 4K, it's easily worth the upgrade, but if you got a 2017 4K Apple TV, you'll have to judge for yourself if these small incremental upgrades are worth $180 or not. I'd love to hear what you decide. Are you keeping your old one or upgrading? And if you did upgrade, did you think it was worth it? I will see you and your beautiful face on the next one. God bless and peace out.